Hello everybody, I am Casey the Gamer, and it is time for another game review. Today we're taking a look at one of my all-time favorite games on the PlayStation 2, the stylish as hell third-person shooter, Gungrave. Oh yeah. Gungrave was developed and published by Red Entertainment in Japan. It was released July 18th, 2002 in Japan on the PlayStation 2. In North America, it was published by Sega and released September 16th, 2002. I didn't get this game when it came out. In fact, I'd never even heard of it. I believe I was first introduced to it during my freshman year of high school back in 2005. My parents had gone shopping and my dad had picked up a few discounted games, this being one of them. I honestly don't even remember what else he picked up because I was immediately drawn to this one. It was the one I played the most. The character designs were fantastic and the gameplay, while simple, was super fun and just stylish and cool. Really just cool. At the time, this was the first game I played where I was told to kick their ass as soon as the level started, and being a teenager at the time, I thought that was the coolest. I have played through this game multiple times over the years, and I absolutely adore it. It's just so much fun. Anybody up for a revenge story? Because that's what you're gonna get in Gungrave. And just as a heads up, there will be full spoilers ahead for the story. Brandon Heat and Harry McDowell were best friends growing up, and they joined the Syndicate Millennium together. They both made their way through the ranks over the years, and Harry was always obsessed with power. He wanted to take out the boss of the Syndicate, and he wanted Brandon to join him. Brandon refused and attacked Harry. Harry pulls a gun and shoots Brandon several times before shooting him in the eye, killing him. Years later, Brandon is brought back as a dead man, called Beyond the Grave. Or just Grave. The game opens up with Mika Asagi, the daughter of Grave's friend Maria Asagi, and Big Daddy, the boss of the Syndicate, struggling to carry a huge case through the city streets. She is looking for protection and someone to stop Harry McDowell, who had finally gone through with killing Big Daddy and taking over the Syndicate. Mika arrives at the warehouse where Grave and his ally Dr. T are located. Dr. T opens the door cautiously and Mika falls inside, having passed out. Grave opens the case Mika was carrying and reveals the Cerberus pistols. He grabs them, his coffin, and his hat and heads out to kill some Syndicate goons. Mika suddenly wakes up and exclaims that her mother wanted her to give those guns to Grave. Dr. T assures her that he has them and that the Syndicate have awakened their worst nightmare. Grave makes quick work of the Syndicate members occupying the bar. Upon returning to base, Grave talks with Mika and she says Dr. T explained that Grave was an old friend of her mother's. Mika then apologizes for dragging them into this horrible situation. Dr. T informs Grave about an abandoned factory where most of the seed going around town is coming from. Seed is a parasitic drug that is extraterrestrial in origin. It transforms living organisms into Orgmen, which have incredible strength. Grave heads to the factory and decimates everyone there, effectively shutting it down. Dr. T tells Grave that someone in Chinatown might have information for sale about Harry's whereabouts. He warns that it might be a trap and to be careful. Grave meets with the informant and learns that there's a big party for the Syndicate on an airship where they will be introducing the new boss. Grave fights his way through Chinatown in order to get to where the airship is departing from. He finds the correct bridge and jumps off just as the airship is leaving, crashing through the window in dramatic fashion. He is swarmed by Orgmen, but they are quickly dispatched. Harry McDowell and the other members of the Syndicate, Ballad Bird Lee, Bob Poundmax, Bear Walken, and Bunji Kugashira confront Grave. Bob Poundmax decides to fight Grave as the others take their leave. Grave makes quick work of Bob and takes off after Harry and the others. Grave gets to the top of the airship and sees a helicopter taking off. He tries running after, but is confronted by a horrifically transformed Bob. The two battle again, and Grave finally puts an end to Bob once and for all. Grave returns to base, and as he is getting ready to head out for his next mission, Dr. T tells him it's time to change out his blood. Grave gets hooked up in the hidden chamber, and the process begins. While this goes on, the Syndicate finds the warehouse and fatally wounds Dr. T and kidnaps Mika. The blood exchange finishes, and a dying Dr. T tells Grave that they've taken Mika. He tracks them down, killing several more Syndicate baddies before confronting Ballad Bird Lee on a train. Lee has Mika in his arm and throws her out the train window. Before Grave can react, the train derails. It would seem that Bunji Kugashira saved Mika as Grave gets ready to take on a transformed Lee. Grave puts him down as well. Bunji gave Mika a message for Grave to tell him that they'll see each other at the tower. Mika urges Grave to be careful as he heads out once again. Making his way down the highway, Grave is attacked by the police. He quickly takes them out but ends up in the sewer. Grave fights his way to the top where he finds Bear Walken waiting for him. Bear has two radical transformations, but they are no match for Grave as he quickly defeats him as well. Bunji then sets off an explosion on the top of the building, sending Grave plummeting to the ground below. Mika tells Grave that the city is in utter chaos after the explosion, but she's going to remain at the warehouse to wait for him. She asks that he come back safely. Grave finally comes face to face with Bunji Kugashira for a one-on-one showdown. It turns out that Bunji was Grave's student in the Syndicate. The two have an incredible battle with Grave finally coming out on top. As he's dying, Bunji laments how pathetic he was and apologizes for not being able to kill his old teacher. Grave finds the entrance to the tower and begins to make his way up, fighting several strange alien creatures along the way. Once he gets to the top, Harry is there waiting for him. Grave tries to shoot him immediately, but Harry has some kind of barrier. Harry reveals that he turned Big Daddy into some kind of monster as well. Grave fights Big Daddy, and upon defeating him is attacked by another monster of some kind. Grave manages to defeat that one as well and confronts Harry one last time. Harry asks if it's over, and then tells Brandon to go for it. Grave shoots Harry in the head and kills him. Grave returns to Mika and she jumps in his vehicle, and the two ride off as the sun rises? Sets? Either way, they drive off, leaving the town behind them. Gungrave is a third-person shooter action game. The gameplay itself is really simple, but that doesn't take away from just how fun it is. In Gungrave, you play as the cowboy from hell, Grave. Grave comes equipped with dual pistols, the gigantic, gorgeous Cerberus pistols, and they pack a punch. In addition to that, Grave is equipped with a giant coffin that he carries on his back. So, gameplay boils down to shooting some more, shooting even more, and, you guessed it, shooting some more. You can jump forward and shoot, and jump back and shoot, and even jump to the side and shoot. And you'll look damn cool doing it. In all seriousness though, you'll be mashing the shoot button a lot to use those Cerberus pistols to deal most of the damage. But what about the big ass coffin on Grave's back? Well, it's not just for looks, I'll tell you that. You can use it for melee attacks, which is fine and all, but the real showstopper comes from its demolition shots. There are 4 demolition shots in Gungrave. In order to use a demolition shot, you have to build up the beat meter. You start with the basic one called Death Blow. Grave will fire a single missile from the coffin, dealing tons of damage. You unlock more demolition shots by performing well in the missions. If you play well enough, you can unlock the other 3 by the end of Stage 3. The second one you unlock is called Bullet Dance, which uses the machine gun built into the coffin. Grave spins around 360 degrees, absolutely decimating everyone and everything around him. The third demolition shot is Hellhound Roar, which fires 3 missiles from the coffin, dealing even more damage than the basic death blow. And the final demolition shot is called Raging Inferno, and it functions like Bullet Dance, but Grave not only shoots all around him on the ground, he'll then jump in the air and do it again. There is also a finishing move that Grave can perform on all bosses from Stage 3 onward. Once you get the boss to low health, the skull icon on the screen begins to glow, and if you have a demolition shot charge, press the button for it and you'll initiate the finishing move. These are all really cool and flashy, over-the-top ways to finish off a boss, ranging from pummeling them with tons of missiles or shooting the hell out of them with the machine gun. Or, if you use it on the final boss, Grave does a combination of all the finishing moves, which is just really damn cool. Grave also has a shield that'll protect him from taking health damage. The shield does take a bit for enemies to go through, but once it's gone, they can chew through your life bar in no time, especially on higher difficulties. But you can heal yourself. Under the demolition shot menu, there is an option for that. It does eat up a demolition shot charge though, so just watch out for that. Gungrave is a relatively short game. It can be beaten in about 2 hours or so. And I think playing it again for this review, it only took me about 1 hour and 40 minutes. It features 6 action-packed levels full of baddies for you to blow away with all the weapons at your disposal. It's a nice, short and sweet experience that doesn't really overstay its welcome. For the first couple levels, you make your way through, fighting a bunch of guys before you encounter a boss, or more like a mini-boss, because they don't got no health bar. So yeah, mini-bosses. Starting on level 3 though, you fight your first actual boss with a health bar and multiple phases. The bosses all have these really cool, disgusting, and unique designs, and I love that. So, you blast your way through all the Syndicate members, Bob Poundmax, Ballad Bird Lee, Bear Walkin', and your former pupil, Bunji Kugashira, who's got the coolest name, by the way, before getting to the final level. Levels 1 through 5, those are great. Totally fun, great fun. Level 6, on the other hand, is far more frustrating than fun, especially on the harder difficulties. The enemies here, they're just a pain. A giant pain. And you can even get knocked off the higher areas and have to repeat stuff. And on higher difficulties, they chew through your shields like nothing. You might as well not even have them. But anyway, you finally get to the top of the tower and confront Harry McDowell. But before you can kill him, you have to fight Big Daddy, and then whatever the hell the boss after him was. Harry then tells you it's your turn to kill him. But what I didn't know the very first time playing this was that I was supposed to push the shoot button to actually finish him off. I thought it was a cutscene, so I literally sat there for minutes before finally pushing the button and putting a bullet in his head. Gungrave has a few different unlockables for beating it on its various difficulty modes. Beating the game on normal unlocks slow-mo and the character gallery. The slow-mo is a novelty, but it's pretty cool. You use one of the buttons on your controller to slow things down, so you look extra cool while you're kicking butt. Beating the game on hard mode rewards you with the infinite demolition shot, which is pretty self-explanatory. And it's insanely fun to use. And beating the game on the hardest difficulty, Kick-Ass mode, unlocks all the action figures and the cutscenes. And I always loved it in games when they'd let you go back and watch your favorite cutscenes. That's always a nice touch. Gungrave is easier pretty early on. Overall, the last couple levels get a bit more difficult, but the game does have a generous checkpoint system. In addition to that, at least on the easier difficulties, the game gives you a demolition shot charge when you die and continue the game. It continues to give you more and more if you die multiple times on the same level. So before you know it, if you die a lot, you could have max demolition shots, which is very generous, yeah. But overall, simple gameplay, but fun gameplay, and I love it. The graphics for Gungrave still hold up pretty well today, in my opinion, of course. The cel-shaded graphics help give it that awesome comic book or manga look that they were going for, and I absolutely adore this style. And another huge plus, the character designs were done by Yasuhiro Naitao. However, when I first played this game, that didn't mean anything to me because I didn't know who that was. But by the time the sequel, Gungrave Overdose, came out, I sure as hell knew who that was. Yasuhiro Naitao is the creator of the Trigun manga. I absolutely adore the anime and the manga of Trigun. And Yasuhiro Naitao's designs absolutely shine in Gungrave. From Grave's design to the boss designs, there are huge Trigun vibes everywhere. The sound effects are also very good and absolutely fitting. The sound effects for Grave's Cerberus pistols are loud and sound like they pack a punch, like they should. Same for the demolition shots. They all sound so powerful and devastating. Very appropriate. The enemy and boss sound effects also fit very well. And just the little things too, like when you get too close to a wall, Grave's coffin scrapes up against it. Not really a pleasant sound, but it's a neat little detail. And finally, the soundtrack is amazing as well. From that little stinger that plays during the pre-title screen scenes, to the beautiful music that plays during the opening cutscene as Mika makes her way through the city, to the equally incredible song that plays at the end of the game when Grave and Mika drive away from the city. All the music played throughout the levels as Grave tears through waves of enemies is also very fitting and fun to listen to. Top-notch music for sure. So, as you can tell, I love this game. I really love it. It's one of my all-time favorite games and I have played it so much. And it's just cool to think, like, a random game that my dad found at the store that we knew nothing about. And it's one of my favorites. One of my all-time favorites. Much like Mega Man X, which is my favorite, this is a game I can throw on any day and have an absolute blast with it. It's just so much fun. And the sequel's great too. Sequel's fantastic. There's more characters, there's more levels, there's more demolition shots, there's more crazy stuff. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That's for another video. Gungrave Overdose video sometime soon, where we will talk about all the crazy stuff in that game. And there's also an anime that mostly takes place when Brandon and Harry are younger and moving on up in the syndicate. It does eventually come back around to the present day time, like where the games take place, which is cool. It's a really good anime. I recommend it. It does end differently than the games, but I'm not going to spoil that in case you do watch it. And there's a new Gungrave game coming out this year or start of next year. Can't quite remember. I'll probably post some text on the screen somewhere to confirm for sure. But Gungrave GORE looks fantastic. And I am so excited for it. So excited. But yeah, Gungrave is awesome. You want a short and sweet third-person shooter action game with some over-the-top crazy bad guys and all that, I highly recommend Gungrave. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff if you enjoyed. I hope you did. You can catch me streaming all kinds of games on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/CaseyTheGamer91. And you can find the link for that down in the description below. So yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to catch you next time. Peace out!
終わったか。やれよブランドン。今度はお前の番だ。さあ。